Anxiety sucks. Panic attacks suck big. Insert derogatory term here. Hey guys, Lynsey here. I hope you're having an absolutely beautiful day. It's beautiful here, it's sunny, it's a little chilly, so I could always use for a little bit warmer. But today, I just want to talk about anxiety and panic attacks. I feel like that's something that it's not really widely talked about or openly talked about in our society. I feel like it's something that people brush under the table, or they play it off like, oh, you're being overly dramatic or something like that. But I don't want to just sit here and talk about it, because that could be a little boring. I mean, any subject can be boring if you're just sitting talking about it, for the most part. So instead, let's go downstairs. Let's just stretch, do a little zen. So come stretch with me and follow along, and let's just talk about anything anxiety. I can share my story, and if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, you can always put them down at the bottom after you hit that subscribe button. So let's go get started. So I feel like anxiety is one of those things that a lot of people do have, whether it's something more prevalent, or if it's something more in the background, or if it's situational, or if it's something that happens, after you have a baby. Lots of people can have anxiety. Panic attacks, I feel like, is something that it takes anxiety to the next level. It feels very different. It feels uncomfortable. It might even feel like you're dying, like you're having a heart attack. I remember I've been, as you can say, diagnosed with anxiety and panic disorder for about 14, 15 months now. And I know that's not a long time compared to a lot of people, but it is something that has changed my life and how I look at a lot of things. When it was the end of July last year, and I still remember it so vividly, almost like I remember the birth of my son. It's still that vivid in my mind, as far as it was a somewhat normal day. Of course, the summer was winding down. My husband was he's a teacher, so he's going back to school more full time. And my son was starting 5 days a week at his school, which was different. And so, there's just a lot of things changing. And so I had gone into work. It was almost lunchtime, and I started to feel sick. And I assumed it was just another stomach bug like I had had the month before. And of course, me blaming my son. Oh no, he brought home another bug. I'm gonna throw up. So I started to feel sick to my stomach, and it was hard to breathe, and I just was feeling a little dehydrated, which is also something I struggle with, staying hydrated, even though I drink all the time. So I told my boss, I was like, I'm so sorry, I have to go home. I don't feel well. And so on the way home, before I left, I texted my husband and said, I don't feel good, I'm going home. And he called me, thankfully, and he was on the phone with me most of the way home, because everything I was feeling started to feel worse. My extremities started to feel tingly. It was hard to breathe. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dehydrated. I'm going to be sick. I just got to get home. So I got home, and my mom was still watching my son at the time. So, because it was a Monday, and she thought I was sick too. She's like, oh, don't get too close. You go rest, and I'll see you later. Keep me posted. And so thankfully my son, he was still napping. So I went and laid down, and, I tried to eat a little bit, just relax, just try and figure out what the heck's going on. So I laid down, I started to feel better. And of course, my son woke up, and then my husband got home, and everyone's, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't thrown up. I still feel a little weird, but overall, I guess I'm okay. So the rest of the night's fine. I sleep well, and wake up the next morning, and try to eat breakfast. And I still remember I was trying to eat some zucchini bread, and I couldn't eat it. I took a few bites and I'm just like, I'm done, can't eat, not hungry, must still be, there's something wrong with my stomach. So my husband left for work and he took my son to school, and I decided to work from home that day. So I came upstairs to work and sat down on my computer, started working, and I just start to feel sick. My stomach feels sick. It's becoming harder to breathe. Everything's starting to get tingly. So I called my husband and I tell him, I think there's something wrong with me. Like, everything feels weird. It's kind of hard to breathe. Like, I'm getting upset, I'm crying. And my husband just says, do you need me to come home? I'm like, no, I'm sure I'll be fine. And of course, as everything starts to feel worse, I tell him, yeah, will you please turn around and come home? So he comes home, he comes to get me, and I'm just like, we've got to, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. I can't breathe. My heart's racing. Everything feels tingly. I feel like I'm dying. So we got in the car, and on the way to the hospital, I still remember just everything feeling so extreme. Like, my face is tingly. My arms are tingly. My hands are tingly. My legs are tingling. My heart is racing. It's hard to breathe. I'm laying down in the car trying to relax, just telling my husband, I love you, because I really thought it, I don't know what dying feels like, but to me, I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was about to be gone, so I wanted him to know that I loved him, and, I'll see you on the other side, because I think this is it. So we get to the hospital, and of course the nurses and everyone is super kind, like, just tell me your name and what's your insurance and all of that jazz. And so, thankfully the emergency room was not very packed that day, and we got in fairly quickly, and they took all of these tests. The doctor came in and was like, yeah, everything looks fine, you might be a little bit dehydrated, and that's about it. So you need to go see a cardiologist, you need to go see a head doctor, all these things. Like, he's like, you're fine, it's all in your head, blah, blah, blah. So who knows? The only thing I remember good about being at the hospital was they gave me oxygen to kind of calm me down. And I tell you what, side note, like, straight up oxygen that, it's the football players when they are on the sidelines and they get the oxygen over the face. When you have that oxygen on you, it is the most glorious thing. Because I had it when I was giving birth as well, and so that's why these stories are so familiar, so stuck in my mind, because something about the oxygen. And the straight up oxygen getting into your body is just so calming. It's so relaxing. Why anyone would ever want to do anything else but just sniff straight oxygen, I don't know, because it is the most wonderful thing ever. Anyways, so after that, we went home. My husband, started calling all the doctors, making all the appointments for me, because I still was like, there is something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. This is awful. I don't know what to do. And so the big thing was I couldn't eat. I wanted to eat. My stomach was growling. It was telling me, yo, Lynsey, get some food in me. And I'm laying on the couch, drinking the Pedialyte, the Gatorade, the Powerade, the water, just getting all the liquids in, because obviously I'm just dehydrated. The doctor thinks, you're a little dehydrated, something with your heart rate, whatever, just drink. So I was drinking all the fluids I possibly could, but I wasn't able to eat anything. So I drank so much water and so much Pedialyte, of course, then I have to pee. So my husband makes all the appointments for me. Then my son comes home, and I can't do anything. I have no motivation to do anything. I just want to lay on the couch, because I'm afraid if I get up and move, it's just going to feel worse. And that went on for 2 weeks, where I couldn't eat. I cried all the time. My mom had to literally, she had to come over and babysit me because I couldn't do anything except lay on the couch and cry and get weaker and drink water. And I mean, it was hard to walk. It was hard to stand. It was hard to do anything. It was hard to laugh. I just felt so down, and I just didn't know what was wrong. And I feel like the doctors weren't helpful. The head doctor just did a few tests and was like, yeah, you need this medication and this medication. What? Like, what's wrong with me? And the heart doctor said, you're absolutely fine, very healthy, nothing's wrong. And I even went to a therapist a couple of times so that maybe she could tell me what was wrong. And she thought, the same as the doctor at the hospital, that it is in my head, sort of, but it's some type of anxiety. And she tried to give me techniques, and I had heard of other techniques from this radio show I listened to. So as everything kept getting worse, and I, started not being able to sleep at night and waking up in the middle of the night with these attacks, and, waking my husband up because I was just terrified. I couldn't do it alone. And so he would help me go through the exercises of, just breathing and changing my concentration, as far as it's like, I don't know what you call it. It's like a rule of 5, where you focus on, okay, what 5 things do you see? What 4 things do you feel? What 3 things do you hear? What 2 things do you smell? What's the 1 thing that you can taste? So we would have to go through that multiple times. There were times where we had to go through that process multiple times in order to just bring me back down, in order to make the tingling in my body stop, to make the almost like a hot flash racing through my body from my head to my toes, just hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, and not being able to breathe and my heart racing. It's just the most unpleasant, terrifying feeling ever, at least that I've ever experienced. So I guess in a way I'm blessed for that, but at the same time, just going through it was just scary. So there was finally one night where it was the worst night, where I woke my husband up at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we had to go through that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 process multiple times until we would do it and I would fall asleep, and then I would wake up again and we'd have to start the process all over. And so when it was finally time to get up that morning, and my husband took my son to school, and he brought me up some breakfast to try and eat, and I couldn't get anything down. I couldn't even get 1 bite of yogurt down my throat because my throat was so constricted, saying, no food down me today. No food. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. So I said, okay, we need to go back to a doctor. And this is the moment, that was when I finally was able to get in contact with a doctor who was absolutely amazing. And I was in the room at the doctor's office, and she was just so full of patience. She, I was crying, and she would just tell me everything so slowly of what was going on. This is what you're feeling. This is why you're feeling it. And basically, she was saying things so slowly that I just looked at her with tears in my eyes, saying, so there's nothing we can do? And she just goes, I didn't say that. She goes, I just want you to be able to process everything I'm saying. So she prescribed me a couple of things, because the first doctor had prescribed me something that was just awful. It knocked me out and made me feel even worse. So she had to give me a couple different prescriptions. And I started the medications that night, and the first one I took, I figured, oh, it's gonna take about an hour to kick in or whatever. So I took it at 6:30 that night, and within 10 minutes maybe, I looked at my husband all woozy saying, I've got to go to bed. I feel like I'm about to collapse on the couch. So I came up and went to bed and woke up the next morning. I slept the first night, in 2 weeks that I slept fully through the night, just straight up, like 9-10 hours of sleep, full, rested, everything. I wake up the next morning and I feel like a brand new person. I mean, obviously I still feel weak because I haven't eaten, and just my body's deteriorating a little bit. So I'm able to get up, I'm able to shower, I'm able to eat a little bit of yogurt. And my mom comes in that morning to watch my son, and she looks at me after having seen me so far down for the last 2 weeks, and she goes, you look like a different person. Like almost like I looked normal. And she, of course she was shocked. My husband's like, holy cow, this is happening. You want to go to work? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work. I am me again. This is the first day that I felt like me again, and even better. And I mean, I know that's a really long story, and I feel like that's not even all of it. And I know some people's stories are worse because some people have anxiety constantly all the time, or they know that one thing that causes their anxiety and what's causing their panic attacks. And I mean, unfortunately for me, I don't know what causes mine. But I can tell even when it's trying to happen in the background, because my eating does get weird. And for me, that's super annoying because I love to eat. So when my anxiety is high and I can't eat, that just bugs the ever living you-know-what out of me, because your girl wants to eat, and she wants to eat all the things, from the healthy-ish stuff to the in-between things to the most unhealthy dessert. I want it in my belly. So for my anxiety to constrict me being able to eat is just, I don't even know. I don't know how to fully describe it, except for, it just makes me really sad. And I know there are people out there that have it much worse. And I know there are people out there that don't even tell people they have anxiety, because it's not something, I feel like, it's not really talked about in our society. I think I've already said it, but it feels like it's something that's brushed under the rug. People don't want to talk about anxiety, panic attacks, depression, because they're all linked together and they see it as a weakness. But for me, I don't see it as a weakness. It made me weak, but it made me stronger when I've come out the other side, because it's still something I deal with, but I think that gives me strength, because it's like God was saying, oh, you only have, your mortgage and all your bills and your stress from work and your tiny baby and, a marriage and friends and family and all of these other things to take care of. I'm going to add one more thing to your plate because I know you can handle it. And it's like it made me stronger. I see things differently. And for people that don't want to talk about their anxiety, I feel like you shouldn't be scared to talk about it. It's not something you got to bring up, on a first date or at a party or graduation or something, but it's also not something you feel like you should hide. If it's someone, everyone has struggles, everyone. And, maybe we need to all shift our focus. And when we meet someone, the first thing we don't have to ask is, hey, what do you do for a living? Because, really, who cares? That doesn't make the person, not necessarily. And so why don't we say, well, hey, what are your hobbies? What are your fears? What's your favorite book? What is the project you like to do? What's the music you like to listen to? I feel like that, lets us know people a little bit more. And, more comfortable we become with each other, the easier I feel like it would be to talk about things like anxiety and depression and panic attacks, because I know there are a lot of people going through it, and I didn't know so many people were going through it until it was something I was going through. And then, I didn't want to be scared to I don't want to be scared to put it out there, because there were people reaching out to me like, I know what you're going through. I've been there too. And to just have that kind of support, the support of friends and the support of those you didn't know you were going to talk to, the support of your family, just I feel like that's where you have to surround yourself with all of the right people, because they're the ones that are going to support you when you're going through something like this. They're going to support you when you're at your very lowest moment. And I know my friends and family did. And they're the ones I know I can count on. And I'm so thankful that I have them in my life. And, I've told several people this story, but to be able to share it with you guys, it's just, I don't know, I don't want people to be scared, because I contemplated even talking about anxiety and panic disorder and panic attacks, because when I searched that on YouTube, no, there's not even any really videos on it, unless it's just how I was searching. But like, people don't want to talk about it. Why not? It's part of life, just like anything else. These days, I feel like 98% of the, country has some type of, just moments of down or little bits of anxiety or just something. And nobody wants to talk about it. I don't know. Maybe it's silly to talk about. Maybe it is something we should brush under the rug. But for me, no. It's something that, I'm reminded of it every day, 5:15, when I've got to take my medication. Like, okay, my alarm's going off, 5:15, got to take it. I don't want to go back to that place where I was. I never want to go back to that time where I just felt awful. So awful. And so I prefer being happy. I prefer being on the bright side. I prefer being the glass half full. That's what I prefer to be. And I don't know, if you're struggling, I just feel like you should, I hope you're able to reach out to someone and to just confide in them, and so that you know that you're not alone. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys, for watching, maybe stretching with me. So hopefully you did stretch with me, because stretching's good. It's good for your body, whether you work out or not. It just keeps everything limber. And, thank you for talking about anxiety with me and listening to my story. So hopefully, if you guys have any stories, I'd love to know. It's definitely something that I think we should be able to talk about more. But I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.